fucking ashamed of your fucking scum.
They're fucking pigs!
Patriarchy. Fucking rape apologist, incest supporting, woman hating, fucking scum.
You woman eater!
Patriarchy, fuckface.
You and your sons and your everybody and your friends, bunch of fucking men.
Fucking scum.
This is what men's rights look like. This is what men's rights look like. This is what men's rights look like.
Feminist theory is not the Bible. It is not the Declaration of Independence. It is not the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
You're damn right we target feminist ideology. Feminist ideology teaches nothing but hate and contempt for men and boys.
Feminism must be like the psychedelic drug. I swear to God, because nothing they say is remotely close to reality.
We're going to continue to call feminists out on their hate and bigotry, and we really don't give a damn if they like it or not.
Well, you know what, feminism? If you don't like the rule of law, then don't be part of society. Go somewhere else.
Blue Collar Red Pill, with your host, the One Dan Army Dan Aarons, and Jack Nightrunner Barnes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Blue Collar Red Pill Radio. Danny boy, are you there?
I am, Jack. How you making out this week, brother?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Enjoying the weather. The summer weather's here up north, so that means we're crawling out of the igloos, and we don't have to worry about eating the yellow snow.
Okay. Well, I'm enjoying this wonderful weather we're having down here. It's hot. Very hot. Anyway, why don't you go ahead and lead us into our story?
Well, tonight we got a nice little addition and date with a Ashley Shaw. Now, Ashley is a young aspiring writer from just a little south of me, down in New Jersey, it looks like. And she's penned a piece over at Law Street Journal called the Penile Code, the unappreciated plight of men's reproductive health. But before we get into that, Jack, you want to tell us a little bit about Law Street Journal?
Sure. The story of the Law Street Journal. It goes like this. Turn down the noise and amp up the facts. That's why we created Law Street. In the summer of 2013, a group of professionals and students came together in Washington and New York to create a site for students, young lawyers, and everyone who's interested in law and public policy. If you want to learn about issues, join a community, express an opinion, or get a job, Law Street is a place to go. All for the great price of free. Innovation, issues, careers, lifestyles. We know what we're talking about because we live the life. Meet us here at Law Street. Okay, the founder of this website is a guy called John Jenkins. Now, Johnny is a big-time philanthropist. He's got board experience at corporations, universities, associations, blah, 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 blah. He's a publisher of CQ Press, author of 3 books, hundreds of magazine articles, and a regular contributor to the New York Times Magazine and GQ. So, supposedly he's a big name. I've never heard of this guy before, but that doesn't mean much. Yeah, he's, like I said, he's supposedly a big name in publishing and supposed to be well known and respected. But he published this article, or his website published this article, which takes him down a notch or two, in my opinion. What do you think, Dan?
Well, on the respect level, and considering that how his own, you know what? I will say that he can take a joke. I'll give him credit for that, because the way one of his employees kind of ridicules him in a roundabout way, him being, part of half the human race, hats off. He can take a joke.
Yeah.
Not really so funny, but he can take a joke at least. So anyways, do you want to dig into the article there, Jack?
Yeah, I'm posting the link in the chat room now so everybody can take a look at it. All right, first it starts off, she's got a picture, of this guy dressed in a skimpy bathing suit, supposedly the teen heartthrob type dude, right? Uh, you know, Apparently she has no problem whatsoever sexually objectifying men. Just throwing that out there, which, hey, I don't care. As long as she don't bitch at me about sexually objectifying women, hey, it's all good. But anyway, she starts her article talking about the Hobby Lobby case. Oh, boy. All anyone seems to talk about recently is the Hobby Lobby case and women's reproductive rights. I think this is grossly unfair. Yes, I agree that women's health is important, but in all the hustle and bustle, we have forgotten about the other half of the population and their delicate reproductive system. So I'm going to bring those deprived, long-ignored men's issues to the spotlight and finally give them the attention they deserve. Sounds all well and good to start with, right? Well, it quickly goes downhill.
You know what? I'd just like to point out a couple things here. Now, the Hobby Lobby case, I'm Canadian, and so I'm really a little bit not as up on that as much as I could, or as much as an American would be. But in my opinion, couldn't like the public just kind of vote with their buying dollar or their consumer dollar and kind of send Hobby Lobby a message if they wanted, if they wanted things changed or if they didn't like Hobby Lobby's decisions. What do you think there, Jack? Would that be a suitable solution?
Yeah, but of course that would be a way to let Hobby Lobby know how you feel, but it goes a little farther than that. Whenever you go to work at a place, there's always benefits, right? Or, well, not always, but, if you're like me, a small business owner, you don't have benefits. But, things like insurance, vacation time, so on and so forth. Now, a lot of times a person will go to work at a place based solely on the benefits package. And if you don't like the benefits that Hobby Lobby has to offer, find a job somewhere else. It's that simple. All the Supreme Court said is Hobby Lobby does not have to provide insurance that pays for birth control. That's it. So if you don't like that, go to work somewhere else. It's not that difficult. But anyway.
Yeah. But that's a little bit of a sticky wicket there. But also, I'm going to put out that, employers should respect their employees and treat their employees well. We shouldn't reward tyrannical companies, things like that. But anyways, now I'm also kind of going to point out that she mentions delicate reproductive systems. Now, it seems to me I hear a lot from feminists about, pussy is an insult or something like that, and wouldn't that be kind of, I'm kind of a little confused here because it's feminist logic again, or feminist theory. I'm not quite sure if it's logic or theory or something else. But anyways, okay, so shall we go on?
Yeah, go ahead.
For some background information that you just might not know. The first bullet point she has is a man's reproductive health is apparently directly linked to his fragile self-esteem. Take, for example, the policeman who sued rapper Meek Mill. Meek Mill allegedly made derogatory comments in the press about the officer, which the cop claimed resulted in his boys in blue losing the heat that they were formerly packing. This just goes to show you that men need a lot of ego stroking to remain functional. Now, so the link to the article goes to a TMZ article. And what happened was that apparently Mr. Police Officer might have been a little dirty to begin with. It's alleged, according to the TMZ article, that the officer arrested Meeks for smoking marijuana, but could not produce the marijuana at the end of the day. This resulted in a lawsuit, and amongst his claims, he said that he couldn't had a strong effect on his life. And relationship performance with his fiance, and so they broke up. So he threw that in for damages and threw in some exorbitant amount for damages. But so she's kind of a little dishonest on that one. The next one there, Jack, if you want to grab that one up.
Yeah, long ago in France, women could sue for divorce if their husbands had ED, erectile dysfunction. How, you asked, would they be able to prove this? Well, it turns out women didn't have to prove anything. In a reversal on the old innocence until proven guilty credo, it was the man's job to prove he didn't have a problem. In the infamous impotence trials, men might request a trial by Congress allowing them to prove they could perform in the bedroom by, well, performing in the bedroom in front of the court. Okay, what we see here is, this is true. This really actually happened. And it went on for quite a while. I think I'm recalling from memory, but if I'm recalling correctly, like a couple hundred years, But these guys, most of the time, it was rich women who brought their husbands to these trials, accused them of not performing or not being able to perform because they were the only ones that could afford the legal cost, right? Well, a marriage could be annulled based on the findings of this trial, and you had to sit there and screw your wife in front of witnesses, and not to mention the fact that she's been being a bitch to you by dragging you into this trial in the first place, and you got to get it up and screw her. And this author, that's the only name I could use right now. Just call her an author. Is making fun of this. She thinks it's a big fucking joke. I wonder how many men had to suffer and go through this humiliation. Because if you were found to be impotent, you were the laughing stock of your community. How many men suffered through this and she thinks it's a fucking joke?
Well, Jack, hold on. First here, let's point out, according to the article, it goes back around quite a few years, at least to the it starts around 1300s. They make mentions of it, at least by the at the 1300s, and continues on at least until the 17th, 18th century sort of deal, 1700 sort of deal. Now, first they had to get it up, for the court. Okay, so that's with no sex involved. So imagine this. A guy has to go into a room and pitch wood in front of a bunch of clothed, wizened, old people. A priest, possibly, a couple of midwives, the judge himself, all looking upon that young man. How about we reverse the genders? Ladies, get up in front of the court, and I want to see you gushing. Come on. This is, that would be equal. We want to see you gushing, okay? Because that would be, kind of equality. I want each and every, feminist out there to think about, would they be willing to get up in front of the court and produce their willingness to engage in sex, matrimonial sex? There, I guess, would be for the 1700s or so. So yeah, ladies, get up there. I want to see you gushing for the courts. Now, failing that, if the guy couldn't pitch wood, well, then that moved on to stage 2, and it was a trial by the courts. Guess what? It's time to do the mattress marimba in front of the courts. So how about you pitch wood in front of the courts with, everybody looking, again, the same happy crowd sitting there, bunch of priests, midwives, the courts themselves, and they're all waiting for you to perform. Now, possibly, there could be other factors. Let's face it, back in those days, they didn't eat so well. Or so healthily. A lot of things could go wrong, and that is really, really kind of bad. So, yeah. Shall we get on to the next one?
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Okay. So, apparently in India, recently, I might add, impotence was legally classified as mental cruelty. I think we can all agree with that. The frustration and shame that this causes is tremendous. I assume, and I can understand why a court would say Mother Nature is a cruel mistress for causing it. Oh wait, it's mental cruelty caused by the man to his wife. Well, those poor men, it's just never about them. Now, if we go to the link, Times of India, and we find that it's December 29th, so it was not even a year old. December 29th, 2013, in India, Mumbai. Now, the couple was married May 22nd, 2010. The gentleman has problems, okay, apparently, according to the article, and they separate on August 2011. So they find that the man has to give the woman a monthly maintenance of 3,500 rupees, I guess, for a marriage of a marriage of over a year. So the guy has to pay her 3,500 rupees a month for not even sleeping with the woman, not even consummating the marriage. I'm thinking I see a little something wrong here. Okay, there's no children. The marriage hasn't been consummated. Maybe just a slight little bit of an issue with that one. But that's not a problem for Ashley Shaw because she's a lawyer and she likes to make money off of personal carnage. Wouldn't you say, Jack? Or she's an aspiring lawyer, or at least works for, writes for a law mag.
Yeah, I mean, she wrote this article and she's just making fun of all of this like it's just some big joke to her. And, if we lived in a society that viewed men and women as equals, this would be disturbing to anyone. Everyone would be calling this woman out on what she's done. But since we live in a society where men are not seen as human or seen as less human than women, I don't find this surprising at all that she would write something like this. Not at all. But anyway, let's go on, shall we? Now that you see that men all around the world and throughout time have been mistreated and hurt by their lack of reproductive support, I'm sure you will agree that women have been given way too much attention in the healthcare arena as of late. To help change that, I'm going to tell you about a couple of lawsuits that resulted when the healthcare industry failed men and their genital health. Okay, she starts it off with this first story of a guy in Canada. Apparently, he was having sex with his wife and missed a stroke. We've all had that happen, but this poor guy broke it. Yep, he broke his dick. A fractured appendage, as she calls it. So he goes to the hospital, and the doctors have to perform surgery to fix the break. Well, when they do, they trimmed off a little more than what he thought they should, and he came up an inch shorter than what it was to begin with. And we're going to pick it up here. He allegedly ended up an inch shorter, and unlike my hair, he can't just wait 2 weeks for it to grow back. After all this, his unsatisfied wife left, presumably to find a man more able to meet her sizable needs. The man is now suing the hospital for its alleged negligence and its indescribable anguish. The question now becomes, just how is he going to prove his claims? I hope for his sake he has before and after shots. So his wife left him because he didn't have a big enough dick to satisfy her anymore. Buddy, if you ever hear this, you're probably better off from the sounds of it. But anyway, besides the point, he believed that the doctors took more than what they should. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Maybe they did what was necessary. Maybe they went too far. I don't know. But I do know this. The guy's hurting. He was in pain then. He's in emotional pain now. And this bitch, all she wants to do is make fun of him. That's low. I'm sorry. That's just low down and sorry right there. What do you think, Danny?
Well, I want to get into a little bit more of this. In the statement in the claims, the man, it appears that the couple was unable to have sex for 2 years, and his wife eventually walked out on him for that. So, here we have a marriage that is intact, a marriage accident, I'm going to call it, happens. And the gentleman has to go to the hospital, and there is surgery performed, loses an inch, and his wife ends up leaving him after him being irreparably changed. After 2 years, his wife leaves him. Now, her as a lawyer should be drooling at this lawsuit right here because, let's face it, she works, or it appears she's aspiring to be a lawyer, and she's working in a law, or she's writing in a law atmosphere. I don't know why she's not drooling at this and saying, hurrah. No, she's trying to, in a snarky kind of way, put this guy down. which is horse shit. How about, we say that the woman had gone to the hospital because there was a misstroke and whatever accident that could happen down there, and irreparably damaged and changed her anatomy, and the man decided to leave. Would Miss Shaw still be making such a big joke about the deal? It's an embarrassing lawsuit for sure. I feel for the guy. My God. But you know what? It's still his body, and it's still an injury, and possibly the hospital is liable for this. Anyways, shall we go on to the next story?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. The next lawsuit took place in Delaware, where a truck driver needed some help getting his motor started. To get back to business, he jump-started his equipment with penile implant surgery. After the surgery, the man's erectile dysfunction was gone, so you might think to yourself, success, good for the lucky devil. Unfortunately, the surgery left him with a new concern. He could shift into high gear, but couldn't get back into neutral. Oh, geez. You know what? I just love this darling's little, use of language. She's pretty good at it. I will give her that. Too bad she can't pick a better target than, somebody who's actually injured, as noted in the previous example of hers. If you've ever seen Viagra commercial, then you know that if your erection lasts more than 4 hours, you should probably contact a doctor. This trucker must not be a late-night television watcher, though, because he didn't contact the hospital until a firm 8 months had passed. I'm sure she wasn't, employing a little bit of a pun on the firm. 8 months had passed, and 8 months long, yes, the guy should have probably went and seen the doctor a long time before he does go. That's right, an 8-month-long erection, that's real stamina. The doctors claimed they weren't entirely at fault because the man should have come to them sooner, like maybe after the surgery, his scrotum swelled to the volleyball size. Anyways, another surgery fixed the current problem, and a third surgery fixed the initial problem, but it still left the man with bad memories and a lot of medical bills. The angry driver did what any man who suffered from 8 months of hardship would do. He began medical malpractice suit with alleging negligence on the part of the doctors. I'm sad to say, once again, our legal system failed to protect the sexual health and well-being of our male population. It took less than 2 hours for a jury of his peers to decide that there was no negligence. I'm all for civil justice, but I think we cannot reach equality until we consider all people. Stand up for men's rights today, she ends it with. Now, Jack, she does end with an interesting little tidbit, doesn't she? About men's reproductive rights and sexual health.
Oh, yeah. But before we go on to that, I would just like to add, what if this guy could not afford to go back to the doctor? For one reason or another, what if he can afford to take off work? We don't know his situation. We don't know why he waited 8 months. Now, yeah, under normal circumstances, I'd say, dude, you should have went back a long time ago. But we really don't know what happened there. But evidently she thinks it's hilarious. What do you think, Dan?
There was, if I remember correctly, there was an interesting case not too long ago, and I'm just trying to look it up, about a woman who orgasmed constantly all the time, and she ended up killing herself over it. I'm just trying to see if I can find the link for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard of that stuff before, but it's these things happen. Men and women have problems with their reproductive systems, but Ashley Shaw here seemed to think it's a joke when it happens to men. I'm going to read a little bit about Ashley Shaw here. She's an Alabama native, currently a New Jersey resident, a graduate of both Kennesaw State University, Heads Up Sage, and Thomas Good Jones School of Law, and she spends her free time reading, writing, boxing, horseback riding, trivia, flying helicopters, playing sports, and a whole lot else. So maybe she has too much spare time, you think? Says here she likes boxing. This poor guy in this last story, his scrotum swelled up to several times its normal size, right? I wonder what she would think about it. I wonder if she would find it funny. Just out of curiosity, a little thought experiment here. I wonder if she would find it funny if someone boxed her tits till they swelled up several times than what they were supposed to be. Gee, I wonder. But yeah,
Well,
Danny,
you know what? We could take it even a little better there, Jack. You know what if she got a low blow? You know what?
Yeah.
It's tender in the plumbing area for both guys and girls.
absolutely.
So how would she like to have her genitals swell up to the size of bowling balls and be black and blue from a surgery and then have something wrong and then possibly be a little embarrassed about going back to the doctor because of idiots like her who might shame her. I will give credit in the first story there about the Canadian man. Sun News TV, where the story was aired, I believe, originally, at least where I found it originally, they did not disclose the gentleman's name. Hats off to them for having, some respect for the man. It's sex is fun, sex is great. We all got here by sex of some sort, whether it was you got a womb with a view and it was in vitro fertilization and as in test tube baby, or whether you got here the old-fashioned way with a little, jumping of ma and mattress marimba in the bedroom somewhere, or maybe out of the bedroom. That's probably the really, really old-fashioned way, like before we kind of had homes and stuff. What do you think there, Jack?
I say respect the van because a lot of families were started in one. Anyway, yeah,
Hey, the shaggin' wagon.
that's right. I think, Danny, didn't you do a little research into her Twitter account?
I did. I came up with some pretty interesting tweets from her. She's got some interesting ones. One is one that we can really kind of hammer on. I don't know, Jack. Which one would you like to take first? There's two juicy ones. At least two or three.
Well, let's save the best for last. One of her tweets is she says during a job interview. Now this is Ashley Shaw, the author of this article. During job interview, apparently the person interviewing her said this. I know I'm not supposed to say this, but you're really cute with the hashtag sexual harassment suit and hashtag millionaire. So wait a minute. She had no problem posting that picture of that guy, which if it had been a woman, the feminist would have cried sexual objectification. But someone tells her she's cute and she tweets with the hashtag sexual harassment suit and millionaire. Ashley Shaw, grow the fuck up. Please, for all of us. Do us all a favor and grow up. Anyway. What do you think, Dan?
Well, she has a second job in mind, as I understand it.
Yeah, really.
And it comes at the suggestion. Well, what do I think about that? I think that that she got a compliment. She's really cute, and I would also say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I did have to crawl around this woman's background a little bit and take a peek, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it was just a compliment as far as I'm concerned. Did the guy say any? Did he make any literally sexual advances? Did he say, "Hey, you want to go out on a date? I'll give you the job if you want to go out on a date." Really a compliment where you're really cute, or let's reverse the genders, and let's say that the guy's going in for a interview and he gets told that he is really handsome. As a guy, I would say, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and get on with business. But who knows? Ashley has a little bit more of an issue with it than I would personally. But like I said, her grandma, she does have another thing there. Anyways, her other one, it's a double whammy. So The other one is, let me see if I can find it here. She lays it out on twice, actually. At 4 o'clock, she lays it out. Here's where it's funny. She lays it out at 4 o'clock. Her grandmother gives her some words of advice. I think I should marry a pro athlete. That's her idea. She wants to marry a pro athlete. Grandma says, GMA, then you better go out, get your ass out there and wiggle it. You sure won't meet one here. And she #truth. So here her grandmother tells her to get out and wiggle her ass to attract to attract an athlete. And then second one she goes up with, it comes up again, and the second one is this one here, where her grandmother says, I want a great grandkid. You don't have to get married to give me one. You just need a man for the night. #words of advice. So what we have here is the topic that is really a hot button topic in the MHRM, and that is where a man could possibly be forced into becoming a father at the whims of a woman who he may not even know that she wants to become a mother. Shall we save this up for after the break there, Jack?
Yeah, man. That sounds like a good idea. James, why don't you hit us with some music, brother?
All right, music it is.
And we're back from our music break. How you doing there, folks? If you don't remember, we are going after the Penile Code by Ashley Shaw, a snarky little bit of journalism by this punky young little upstart from New Jersey area who it looks like she's aspiring to be a lawyer. And she's making fun of lawsuits. Gee, she's making fun of her own profession. I don't know. Anyways, so if you remember, before we left for break, we came back, or we were talking about male reproductive rights, or male parenting rights, right, Jack?
Yeah. We were talking about how Ashley's grandmother, who seems to be an outstanding role model. Way to go there, Granny. She told Ashley, "I want a grandkid. You don't have to get married to give me one. You just need a man for the night." Okay. In case you all don't know, I'm a father. I have a child. This idea that men are just sperm donors, that they don't have any feelings for their children, they don't care. Just all you need is a man for the night. Kick him out of bed and go on about your merry way. Have his kid. Don't tell him about it. Don't tell him he's got a kid in this world. Just he don't need to know about that. I want a grandkid, so just go go get fucked.
Wait a minute here. I don't think so, because she wants to be a sports athlete wife. So I'm thinking she doesn't want, she doesn't want any old man, because didn't she put in #millionaire?
She put that in on the lawsuit, didn't she? Or did that? Let's see.
Was that the lawsuit? Yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah, that was on the lawsuit one. The one about the she wants a pro athlete is just #truth.
That's right.
Get out there and shake your ass there. Get out there and shake your ass and wiggle it. Oh dear God. She wants a pro athlete to knock her up so she can get that child support check every month. See, fuck him, fuck his rights, fuck how he feels about his kid. Just give me a check. That's what this bitch right here is all about.
I'm thinking that I'm pretty sure she wouldn't skip that process of becoming a mother there, or at least in her grandmother's views on becoming a mother. I'm pretty sure she'd be right up on getting that child support lawsuit in there, or that child support claim in there, not lawsuit. Parental lawsuit there, which Carnell Smith gave an amazing talk about at the International Conference, International Men's Issues Conference back in Detroit there. For those of you who haven't seen the conference yet, you can find it on A Voice for Men. I urge you to watch Carnell Smith's part about it, and false paternity suits. I believe that the numbers are 1/3 of the blood bank's requests for paternity suits are coming back, or around 1/3 are coming back false. So the father listed on the birth certificate of a child is not the real father. That's kind of really nasty. That is unjust enrichment. Do you know what that is there, Ashley? Unjust enrichment. I'm pretty sure you'd be, knowing what that term is. You studying law and all kind of like, and assuming that the rest of us don't really know what their big 50-cent words mean. But yes, that would be unjust enrichment. And fraud comes to mind too. Extorting money. I believe up here in Canada that'd be around 355 or 380 of the Criminal Code of Canada. I'm just going off the top of my head here. How you doing there, Ashley? Yeah. Some of us laymen, we do study up on the law as well. But we are talking about is male reproductive rights, and how what the men's human rights views are on this. Now, let's first start off with, we don't want to control on a woman's body, right, Jack?
Right, exactly. Your body, your choice, your responsibility. That's the kicker. That's the part feminists don't like, and that's the part they leave out. Your body, your choice, your responsibility. I just wonder, Ashley, would you be so quick to jump in the sack with a pro athlete if he could just sign away his rights to the child, and you were stuck with that child and stuck raising it on your own and stuck paying for everything on your own and no child support check. I wonder how you would feel about it then. You know, Dan, my position on this is that if men had the ability to just walk away, just sign away their rights and sign away their responsibilities to the child, maybe women like Ashley Shaw would actually think about and make the right decisions and not simply have children for the paycheck. Bring children into this world where they would be loved instead of, oh, well, I've got this child now for 18 years, but I get a paycheck with it, so that's a bonus. Anyway, what do you think, Dan?
Well, I think that if you're going to use a man as a sperm bank, then you get as much money as you would out of a sperm bank.
I like that.
Nada. Okay? Zero. What is your mens rea? What's your mental intent there? We know what the actus rea is. It'd be coitus, but, the mattress marimba, the two-back beast, whatever you'd like to call it. But, what is your mens rea? What's your mental intent? And if it is to use a man like a sperm bank, then you get the same amount of money that you do out of a sperm bank, which is nothing. Matter of fact, I think you pay for the services of a sperm bank, so you'd have to pay. You should be paying that guy for his services. That would be like the kind of sex-positive feminist view on these things, wouldn't it be? Or, kind of like a just view of things here, a balanced view.
It wouldn't be feminist at all, in my opinion, because it requires a woman taking responsibility for her actions. So that's definitely not feminism.
Oh, but you know what? Wait a minute. Feminism's helping men, though, aren't they? They've got men's backs covered.
Bullshit. I know you were saying it in jest, Danny. I know.
Come on, fuckface.
Yeah.
Patriarchy, fuckface.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm reading.
Yeah.
By the way, in case some of you didn't know, I remember my lovely date from way back in April of 2013, Big Red. Apparently she has doxed somebody, and this is off on a different tangent. But I have discovered that Big Red has helped dox somebody, and it wasn't even for something. It's a bad situation. The gentleman used a racial slur, but that's all it took for Janty to jump on the doxing bandwagon and out this actually not poor. He's a bit of an idiot. You know what? Racism is never right, wrong. It's wrong, plain and simple. But this goes on, and she doxes the guy. Now that's really, really low as far as I'm concerned, and yet apparently, according to people like Futrell and Jezebel, there, I've doxed her, and yet I just don't see that in my article. Heads Up Sharp magazine. Here's a little bit of law trivia for you. Try looking up Criminal Code of Canada, Section 300. I think you're going to find some interesting reading. I intend to be doing an article about that later on this week. That's just kind of a little bit of a wondering what the hell's he talking about sort of situation. Jack, you want to get back there?
Yeah. In that one tweet, she, her grandmother tells you don't have to get married. No, you don't have to get married. And no, you don't have to have the father of the child around. The law gives you the right as a woman, because you were born with a vagina, that you can just simply throw him out. You can throw him out of his house. You can throw him out of his life. You can take his kids away from him. He'll never see them. You have that right. You have that power. But your grandmother, being the wonderful role model that she is, I wonder if she has realized what kind of damage single motherhood does to children. Yeah, I know that's not a popular topic, because you're supposed to be able to do anything a man can do and do it better and do it in heels. But the facts are, Ashley, kids that are raised in single mother households have a far less chance of leading a happy, healthy, productive life than kids raised in two-parent households. That's just the facts. We're talking incarceration. We're talking teenage pregnancy, doing worse in schools, not going to college, all this kind of stuff. That can be, one of the factors is single motherhood, single mother household. But, if your grandmother knows about this, well, she may not, but if she does know about this, it seems like she doesn't really care. She doesn't really care about the health and well-being of her grandchild. She just wants a grandkid. I wonder what kind of role model she was for you. I really do. What do you think, Dan?
I think baby rabies is intergenerational.
Very well could be. Very well could be. She can't have one, so she wants a grandkid. So yeah, the whole get out there and wiggle your ass so you can get a man. I have to say this: a woman who has a pleasant personality, who is a pleasure to be around, who people enjoy being around this person, doesn't have to shake her ass to get a man's attention. Let me let all of you in on a little secret that my dad taught me. There are certain women that you bring home to mother, that you introduce to mom, that and everything. And these are the women who have great personalities, right? And then there's the 3F rule for the rest of them. Find them, fuck them, forget them. Okay? It has nothing to do with being slutty. It has to do with personality. Ashley, in my opinion, by what I've read here, is the kind that you find her, fuck her, and forget her. For the simple fact of, who would want to be married to someone like this? Seriously, who would want to be married to a person who thinks like she thinks regarding men's reproductive health and regarding children and fatherhood, a father's right to be a part of his child's life, which currently he doesn't really have, but most people think fathers should be a part of their children's lives. Who would want to marry someone like that? And that's the difference, Ashley. You have to get out there and shake your ass and dress scant, in revealing clothing and all that to get men's attention, because you don't have the kind of personality that it takes to get a man's attention otherwise.
Well, Jack, I'm not even going to go with the 3F rule on Ashley. If I found her, I would leave her where I found her. I would not I would not do the second F, and I'm pretty sure that I will not be able to forget her, and actually will kind of ridicule her in the future for her insensitive nature. But that's okay, right? It's all in fun and games there, Ashley, right? Now let's drag this back to what we were talking a little bit about before, which was male reproductive rights. Now, what the MHRM proposes, for the most part, and I think that I can go out on a limb and say that 99% of us agree, or somewhere around there, is that a man should be, after a pregnancy is discovered, after two people engaged in sex. Let me point this out here and say that again. Two individuals got it on one night. They were adults and they thought, hey, let's have some fun. And they got it on. They both participated. Okay? And 50% of each one of their genetic materials went into creating an embryo, and a pregnancy occurred. Now, what the MHRM proposes is that a man be able to legally walk away from his rights and responsibilities to that child. And I'm going to go take a little step further, in the same amount of time that a woman has to abort. Now, up here in Canada, we're pretty liberal, and I think fairly disgusting in our laws on abortion, and that a child is not considered a human until it passes through the woman's birth canal. So theoretically speaking, a woman can go in 8 months and 3 weeks pregnant and still get an abortion, legally speaking. Now, feminists, every time that, when a human being, when the decision comes up for when a human being actually begins, whenever that comes up, feminists scream that men are just trying to control women's bodies. I don't know, but I find it kind of pretty much a full-formed human being at 8 months and 3 weeks. But feminists, they wouldn't want that to be classified as a full-formed human being because, hey, maybe that might get the woman charged with, infanticide up here in Canada at that latent term. So that's where that kind of sits. But, the men's human rights movement's position is that a man be able to legally waive all his rights and responsibilities in the same amount of time that a woman has to abort the child. Also, that the biological father be considered first for the adoption of said child if the mother wants to put the child up for adoption. And then the father can raise the child on his own, and he bears all the rights or all the responsibilities for that child as well. Would that be about right, Jack?
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, it's a little thing called equality. It's a little thing called fairness that feminists don't seem to be too. They don't seem to like it very much. But anyway, a man should have the right to walk away, and I think that if he says, okay, I will accept responsibility after this child is born, if it's my child, I think there should be a DNA test done. He should have the right to have a DNA test done to make sure that it is his child before he puts his name on the birth certificate. And if it's not his child, then he should have the right to walk away. Leave her with it. We live in an age now where, just like Ashley here, she's either has become a lawyer or she is studying to become a lawyer. She could provide for that child very well on her own. She could provide for that child on her own, financially speaking, better than a lot of couples could in this country. So, women can do anything. They can make enough money to raise that child on their own. And I think a man should just have the right to turn around and walk away. And there again, if men had this right and had this legal ability to do that, I think a lot of women would be a little more careful. What do you think, Dan?
Well, once you tag on that responsibility end of things to feminism, they start, belly aching and not liking the idea of equality so much. Now, there's also another side issue that comes up with this, and that's how about male victims of rape being forced to pay child support to the rapist. There are cases of it that have happened out there. I'm not going to link any of them. Google is your friend. It does happen. But what does Ashley think about male rape victims being forced to pay child support to their rapists? And just on the male rape victims, let's just say that that individual was in a juvenile facility, and perhaps the tryst occurred, and the male has to pay child support to that rapist. I'd like to know how Adele Mercier might feel about that one. Remember Adele? He was asking for it, right? He can give meaningful consent even though he's a prisoner, with the threat of, being thrown into lockup or 23-hour lockup or down some stairs or whatever at the behest of his jailer, where, no meaningful consent can be given at all. I wonder how Adele and Ashley feel about those situations. Adele, I'm sure, doesn't care because she doesn't know what the hell we're talking about because she's a feminist. I'm sorry, I can't do an impersonation of Adele as well as I can do one of Big Red. Big Red is just a little combination of impersonating a squeaky Chihuahua chipmunk and some helium, inhaling helium.
Well, Danny. Well, Danny, it looks like we're coming close to the end of the show. Ashley, if you ever listen to this, be sure to pass this on to your grandmother as well. There's still hope for you, sweetheart. You know, a little bit of self-reflection, a little bit of growing up, a little bit of realizing that men are human beings too, and that we deserve the same rights and protections as you ladies. And you could become a decent person. You know, all is not lost. And everyone, if you get a chance, go over to A Voice for Men on the front page and check out a link for Kennesaw State University. They're having a fundraiser, KSUM, Kennesaw State University Men. They're having a fundraiser for their first ever conference. The list of speakers includes Paul Elam, Karen Strong, Dr. Janice Fiamango, and others. And they're needing some help raising the funds to get this off the ground. So if you've got a couple coins to rub together, they could sure use the help. Anyway, Danny, why don't you take us out?
Well, Jack, yeah, I'd like to say get on over, drop a few shekels into the KSUM lecture fund, and get down there when you can, when it comes up. And this is Danny Boy, the One Dan Army, and Jack, the Tennessee Tall Man Trucker, signing off for another week at Blue Collar Red Pill Radio. James,
good night, everybody.
Dan and Jack hope you have enjoyed this episode of Blue Collar Red Pill. The song The Last Ones by the band Jazar is used under Creative Commons license and has been modified for this show. Please visit antimisandry.com and avoiceformen.com for more information on the men's human rights movement.